Brian Cox, without hesitation, repetition or deviation, can you please explain for us as succinctly as possible, I have a timer here, the rules of quantum mechanics? Your time starts now.
Well, the most basic version I know of is Feynman's version, which essentially says particles are particles and they hop from place to place with a particular probability. And the probability that a particle that's at some place will be at some different place later is given by a very simple rule. It uses a quantity called the action, which is to do with the mass of the particle and the time and the distance. So you basically calculate these little quantities, which are to do with something called the action, and you add them up. So if I start with an electron in one corner of the room, and I say, what's the probability at some time later it'll be somewhere else? Then at every point in the room, you can assign a probability that it will be there at a later point with one simple rule, and that's it. Now, this is called the path integral formulation of quantum mechanics. That underlies everything else. You can get the rest from that. So it's a simple rule. It says, what's the probability a particle will move from A to B? That's it.
I'll stop the timer then. Very good. Well, under a minute.
Poetry is a wonderful art form meant to be read and performed out loud, but too often it's put on a pedestal and strikes fear into the hearts of men. Well, I'm here to tell you that poetry is for everyone, and everyone can have fun performing it. This video is for students, teachers, and poetry lovers everywhere who want to get out of the chair, raise their voices, and do poetry right.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream, and not make dreams your master, if you can think, and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will that says to them, hold on, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Hi, it's Mr. Anderson, and today I'm going to take you on a tour of the periodic table. A book that I've been reading, I'm not quite done, but it's really fascinating, is called The Disappearing Spoon. It's written by this guy over here. His name is Sam Keen. If you want more information, you can go to samkeen.com. It's neat. It's got a lot of trivia on the periodic table. But it's essentially about the history of the periodic table. In other words, it's not the science, which I'm going to talk about today. It's more about the people who discovered the elements. It goes all the way from the Manhattan Project to Mr. Bunsen, the inventor of the Bunsen burner, and Mr. Lewis, famous for Lewis dot diagram. So it's a fascinating read. And it's getting at the history behind this, which is the periodic table. Periodic table, we're going to come back to this in just a second, and we'll review some of the things from this podcast. The thing you may be puzzled about is what's up with the name of the title, The Disappearing Spoon. Disappearing Spoon is actually written about this element. It's called gallium. It's a poor metal. And the neat thing about gallium is that it has a really low melting point. And so if you mix your tea with the spoon made of gallium, so let's take a look at this video over here on the side. the minute it goes in the tea, you can see that it starts to turn into a liquid and then kind of melt away. Thus, the disappearing spoon. The problem with this, I was like you are saying, well, let me Google it. Let me buy one of these spoons. It seems cool. It's also highly radioactive, and so it may not only be a disappearing spoon, but it may be a disappearing hand if you deal with gallium too much. So let's get to the periodic table. So here's our periodic table. Periodic table, first of all, the vertical columns are going to be called groups. And so this would be 1 and 2 and 3, and it goes all the way over here to number 18, which is on the side. And the periods are going to go down the side. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so we're going to see these periodic properties. In other words, as we go and look period to period to period to period, you'll find that there are similar characteristics. Let's go through it then, and I'm going to try to use different colors and highlight each of the different areas. So let's start with the first one. First one are going to be these metals. These metals are called the alkali metals, and it goes all the way from lithium at the top to cesium at the bottom. So these are called alkali metals. Alkali metals all have one valence electron. That means that they're highly reactive. And so in this picture down here, we've got lithium, sodium, all the way through cesium. If you want to have fun on YouTube, just look at alkali metals, and you'll see people thrown into water, and you get these huge explosions. And that's because of their valence electrons. Next to them are called the alkaline earth metals. And so let me advance our picture. So these are the alkaline earth metals. It goes all the way at the top with beryllium, all the way down to the bottom at radium. So this is alkaline. These all have 2 valence electrons, and so they're reactive as well. They tend to form oxides with oxygen, magnesium, calcium. All of these are important in living things. And they tend to be fairly stable. In other words, we can find them on our planet in a raw form. Next up, we've got the halogens. Halogens are going to be over here on this side. So this would be a halogen right here. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine.
I feel fantastic, and I never felt as good as how I do right now. Except for maybe when I think of how I felt that day, when I felt the way that I do right